Nightcast. Stephen Lloyd Gilbreth brings you the current news from the world today and how it relates to Bible prophecy. Understanding the end-time events leading to the peaceful world tomorrow. Ladies and gentlemen, Stephen Lloyd Gilbreth.
Well, good evening, friends, and welcome to this April 20, 2015 edition of Nightcast. Our opening story tonight, friends, it's one that is amazing to me in many ways. Now, it's not video. We often try to open up with a video at the beginning of our program because then I can say a few words and wham, right into a video, and hopefully it makes the viewing of the show kind of interesting for you that we do it that way. And if there's some major weather event happening, volcanic eruption or things like that, we open with those. It's kind of nice dramatic opening. Tonight, the opening story is just photographs, but it's an extremely important news story. Sometimes you've noticed I'll save the most important story for the very end to kind of keep you in there and make you hang in there to the end of the program to see the most important story. I only have 3 stories I'm going to do tonight. We were even contemplating not being on the air tonight for several reasons. I did pray about it. God said, get on the air, Stephen, at least with this story and one other. So, all right, we're here, and I'm going to open with this one because this is amazing. This story goes back to 2012. This is 2015, goes back 3 years. And this is the first I've seen of this situation about this reporter who I'm about to tell you about. And because this is the first we've seen of it, we don't have any video yet. BBC just popped up this story a little while ago, and after I prayed about today's stories and whether we should do a program tonight, it's very rare I won't do a program, but today we were things kept me from being able to do the research I wanted to do until late in the day, and I just said, hey, forget it. We'll just do that rare thing when we don't do a program. But I prayed and said, God, is that all right? He said, no, go look at this story. And I was, oh, yeah, we better take a look at this. All right. Stop beating around the bush, Steve. Get to the story. Now, I wanted to explain to you that because this story is new, I may not be pronouncing this reporter's name correctly, and my apologies to the reporter if I'm not. But I'll spell it for you. I'll make a stab at it, and I'll spell it for you so you can get the idea of what the man's name is. Jason Rezaian, or Rezaian, his last name is spelled R-E-Z-A-I-A-N. R-E-Z-A, like Reza, I-A-N, Eon. Or it might be pronounced, instead of Rezaian, it might be pronounced Rezaian. But anyway, Jason Rezaian has been the Washington Post. Let me bring his photograph full screen as I read you the caption under this photograph that's part of this opening story. All right, I need to fix our screenshots where I can go to it, okay. Let's do this, okay. All right, part of our new setup with buttons have been switched. I want these buttons switched back the way they were. So when I hit the buttons I'm used to hitting, that does what I say it's going to do. We're going to bring the photograph full screen now. This is the photograph of the reporter, Jason, R-E-Z-A-I-A-N, probably pronounced Rezaian, R-E-Z-A-I-A-N, his name. This reporter has been the Washington Post Iran correspondent since 2012. Now that's the caption under this photograph. And friends, let me tell you now about the story. A Washington Post journalist who was detained 9 months ago in Iran. All right, something not right about this story, friends. It says, our caption says he's He's been the Washington Post correspondent since 2012. 9 months ago, he was detained in Iran. Now, this is interesting. 9 months ago is right in the middle of the Geneva talks. Father, I see why this story is so important, why you wanted me to be sure and get this story on. Seriously, friends, when I prayed about this, the answer that came in my head was, get on the air with this story. 9 months ago, Jason Rezaian was, we'll correct this pronunciation once we find out what should it be, but that's close. Rezaian. Jason Rezaian was detained 9 months ago in Iran, and he's now facing 4 charges, including espionage and 3 other charges, according to his lawyer. The paper's Tehran correspondent, Jason Rezaian, is accused of collaborating with hostile governments. Now, he's a Washington Post, United States correspondent. Iran is in the middle of very important sanction relief talks or negotiations, a deal. And so here this reporter is accused of collaborating with hostile governments and spreading propaganda. This correspondent for a United States newspaper. Mr. Rezaian was arrested in July and charged in December. And, of course, that's of last year, 2014. But the accusations against him were not known until now. So that's why this hasn't made top story news. The accusations haven't been known until now. The Washington Post has called the charges, quote, absurd and despicable. A statement from the paper's executive editor, Martin Barron, accused Iran of, quote, indefensible silence in having kept Mr. Rezaian in jail for 9 months without revealing why. The paper urged Iran to clear the names of its correspondent and his wife, who is also a journalist and was also taken into custody in July. Quote, the world will be watching. Any just outcome to this tragic charade can result only in Jason and his wife Yegi's exoneration and immediate release, the statement said. The United States State Department said the charges against Mr. Rezaian, if confirmed, were patently absurd, quote unquote, patently absurd. Reuters news agency reports, quote, the United States is one of a team of world powers negotiating with Iran over its disputed nuclear program. It has repeatedly pressed Iran to release Mr. Rezaian and other detained U.S. citizens. Mr. Rezaian's lawyer, Leila Ashan, learned of the charges after meeting him for the first time today. Meeting him today, just for the first time, the Washington Post says. This is an amazing story. The charges against Mr. Jason Rezaian are said to include gathering information about, quote, internal and foreign policy and providing it to, quote, individuals with hostile intent. His lawyer, Ms. Assan, said she had not seen any evidence against her client. She defended him, saying that as a journalist, it is in the nature of his profession to gain access to information and publish it. My client, however, has never had any direct or indirect access to classified information to share with anyone. Mr. Rezaian, a U.S. Iranian citizen, is being held at Tehran's Evin prison E-V-I-N, Evin Prison, and is due to be tried at the Revolutionary Court, which hears national security cases. No trial date has been set. Western news organizations, including the BBC, have difficulty operating in Iran, with journalists facing detention and surveillance. Iran-based family members of BBC journalists have been questioned by intelligence services, and authorities have tried to intimidate London-based BBC Persian staff. Okay, friends, there you are. That's our most important story for this evening here on Nightcast. Another story which has a certain significance to it that we definitely want to share this evening relates to a biblical prophecy about the times of the Gentiles. And when you hear this story, I think you'll see what I mean. The Chinese president, Xi Jinping, is visiting his country's longtime ally, Pakistan. During his trip, the two countries are expected to sign a number of deals. Among them is the idea of building a multi-billion-dollar economic corridor linking the western Chinese city of Kashgar to Pakistan's coastal town of Gwadar and the Arabian Sea. Now, I've got this report with Shahzeb Jilani, but I've got an update that has come in since this video was filed, and this video is also used in the update. The update says China's Xi Jinping agrees to a $46 billion superhighway to Pakistan. And the caption for this video, friends, reads, "People in Balochistan remain skeptical that Chinese investment in Pakistan will help them," as Shahzeb Jilani reports.
A dusty little town in the southwestern corner of Pakistan. Gwadar is one of the poorest cities in the impoverished province of Balochistan. The coastal community survives on fishing in the Arabian Sea. But with the decline in fish catch, there's not much to do here. No factories, no jobs. Previous attempts to transform this place into a thriving trade hub failed. A port was built 8 years ago, but never opened. Now the government says with promised Chinese investment, it could become a free trade port. The plan is to build an economic corridor linking Gwadar in the southwest of Pakistan to Kashgar in western China, a distance of 3,000 kilometers. The idea of Pakistan becoming China's newest superhighway to Europe, Africa and Middle East is hugely exciting for both countries. If it materializes, the project will take years or even decades. One of the main challenges is the long-running insurgency for a free Balochistan. The rebels accuse the Pakistani army of abductions and killings of nationalists. The army says it's fighting to keep the country together. Experts say the project could bring prosperity to Gwadar and Balochistan, but only if it includes local people and addresses their needs.
The constraint that Gwadar faces is availability of water. So Gwadar will develop not another Dubai, not even another Karachi, but it will develop more as a transit and transshipment port.
For now, many here remain skeptical. They've been let down by Pakistani governments before, and they say they will believe official promises when they see them. Shahzeb Jilani, BBC News, Karachi.
Okay, friends, and I have some more details regarding this story. Now again, China's Xi Jinping agrees to a $46 billion superhighway to Pakistan. And as you saw in the video, people in Balochistan remain skeptical that Chinese investment in Pakistan will help them. And here's the follow-up I have to this. President Xi Jinping has signed agreements with Pakistan promising investment of $46 billion. That's the equivalent of a little more than 30 billion British pound sterlings. The focus of spending is on building a China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, CPEC, a network of roads, railway, and pipelines between the longtime allies. As you heard in the video, they will run some 3,000 kilometers. Now, that's in United States miles. That'd be the equivalent of about 1,800 miles from Gwadar in Pakistan to China's western Xinjiang region. The projects will give China direct access to the Indian Ocean and beyond. This marks a major advance. Now, you saw the map in the video. I'll have a map for you in a moment. In this story, I got a map. We'll pull it up in a moment when we refer to that again. This marks a major advance in China's plans to boost its influence in Central and South Asia, correspondents say, and far exceeds U.S. spending in Pakistan. And friends, this is why this relates to the time of the Gentiles. Gentiles coming up. Now, the caption with this photograph that's part of this story reads, PTV, Pakistan Television, broadcast the historic signing and exchanging of agreements between the two countries. Pakistan, for China, is now of pivotal importance. This has to succeed and be seen to succeed, Reuters quoted Mushahid Hussain Sayyad, chairman of the Pakistani Parliament's Defense Committee, as saying, Pakistan, for its part, hopes the investment will strengthen its struggling economy and help end chronic power shortages. Pakistani Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif said ties with China had, quote, remained robust despite political changes and, quote, major regional developments over 4 generations. Our relations are based on the shared ideals and principles of mutual trust, mutual benefit, and mutual respect, he said. Now, friends, I'm going to break from this news story for a moment for an analysis that was prepared by BBC News Islamabad's correspondent, Iyas Khan. Okay, I'm just going to read this to you. Islamabad's Pakistan is on the verge of becoming the Asian tiger, Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif said it would become when he was last in power in 1997. China plans to inject some $46 billion, almost 3 times the entire foreign direct investment Pakistan has received since 2008. Many say Mr. Sharif's penchant for, quote, thinking big, and China's increasing need to control maritime trade routes may well combine to pull off an economic miracle, as it's being called, in Pakistan. But there are questions over Pakistan's ability to absorb this investment, given its chronic problems with militancy, separatism, political volatility, and official corruption. China is worried about violence from ethnic Uyghurs in its mostly Muslim northwestern Xinjiang region, and fears hardline separatists could team up with Uyghur militants fighting alongside members of Pakistan's Taliban. In Pakistan, a decade-old separatist insurgency in Balochistan province, where the economic corridor starts, makes that area extremely volatile. Many observers believe, however, that the incentive of an economic miracle may make Islamabad work harder to stabilize the situation. Now, that's the end of the BBC correspondent's analysis, friends. Back to the news story. Mr. Zai will spend 2 days holding talks with his counterpart, Menpan Hussein, Mr. Sharif, and other ministers. With the prime, he'll spend 2 days holding the meetings with his counterpart and with the other ministers. He was expected to discuss security issues with Mr. Sharif, including China's concerns that Muslim separatists from Xinjiang are linking up with Pakistani militants. China and Pakistan need to align security concerns more closely to strengthen security cooperation, Mr. Zai said on yesterday. Under the CPEC plan, China's government and banks will lend to Chinese companies so they can invest in projects as commercial ventures. Some $15.5 billion worth of coal, wind, solar, and hydro energy projects will come online by 2017 and add to 10,400 megawatts of energy to Pakistan's national grid, according to officials. A $44 million optical fiber cable between the two countries is also due to be built. Now, friends, here's a graphic illustration of the area that's involved for that trade route corridor. And the caption reads, Mr. Zai will hold talks with Pakistan's president and prime minister. Pakistan, meanwhile, hopes the investment will enable it to transform itself into a regional economic hub. Ahsan Iqbal, the Pakistani minister overseeing the plan, told AFP news agency that these were, quote, very substantial and tangible projects which have a significant transformative effect. Pakistan's neighbor and rival, India, will be watching developments closely. Delhi is weary of China's regional ambitions, despite relations improving markedly in recent years. President Zai visited Delhi last year after postponing his visit to Islamabad because of anti-government protest. India's Prime Minister Modi is due in China next month. And then, friends, one more story that we'll cover tonight in closing. This one, kind of a light story in a way. Sometimes I like to end that way. And I didn't show you faces, though. I could have showed you these faces that relate to that last story that we just were covering. And I'm sure we're going to have more on that as we see the times of the Gentiles come more into play in the days ahead of us, and China rising. All right, this last story. This probably relates to a lot of you out there who some of you told me, Steve, I'm looking for a mate, and it's more difficult today than ever before, the way the Church of God is scattered and broken up and divided. Well, yeah, it's true, but you know, you're not the only ones who may be having a problem with that. Of course, you can pray about that, you see, but even some animals have that as a problem. This last story relates to the Sumatran rhino, which is an endangered species. Few remain in Borneo and Malaysia, and there are fears for the future of the species. Do we have video on this? Yes, we do. Jennifer Pack reports from Borneo, and then, she's covering it all. Let's go to this story again with BBC News reporter reporting from Borneo, Jennifer Pack.
Every morning, men climb 20 meters high to collect breakfast. They gather 100 kilograms of food a day. For him, meet the most eligible bachelor in this jungle. He's a Sumatran rhino named Kratom, or Tom for short. He's 25, healthy, and friends say he's a gentle soul. Just look at the way he eats.
He takes it like he pluck it nicely from the hand of the keeper.
But there are no female rhinos lining up for him. You can blame it on poachers and those who cut down their forests. Conservationists believe there are only a handful of his species left in Malaysia, and they're spread out. Enter the matchmaker.
Hey, Puntong.
Dr. Zainal Zahari Zainuddin took 2 years to capture this female rhino, Puntong.
You look at her face. She has very nice features.
She may have the right looks, but Puntong is missing a foot and talks too much for her partner's liking.
So Tam sometimes doesn't come back. When Puntong was here, Tam did not come back for 3 days. Oh, Iman.
So Dr. Zainal found Tom another girlfriend. This is Iman. Initially, doctors thought she was pregnant. She craved bananas and was moody. But it turned out she had tumors, and lots of them. Iman cannot carry a baby. No other rhino has been spotted since, so they're back to helping Puntong get pregnant with Tom's baby. It'll be difficult with the cysts in her uterus, and then there's the timing. Dr. Zainal is doing an ultrasound on Puntong to see when she is most fertile. But female rhinos only have 1 day out of the month to get pregnant. Imagine the pressure. Here is a home video of Tom and Puntong doing the mating dance. Suddenly, Tom wasn't in the mood and got violent. Dr. Zainal tried to step in, but later he was tossed in the air. Were you scared?
Of course I'm scared. What else?
Puntong.
So the chemistry between Puntong and Tom still needs a little work. Dr. Zainal and his team are now looking at in vitro fertilization to produce a rhino. It's hardly romantic, but the future of this species depends on the match. Jennifer Pack, BBC News, in Taban Wildlife Reserve, Borneo.
All right, friends, there you have it. Okay, one last thing I mentioned to you in closing our Monday night report. Friends, you'll remember last week we showed you video regarding the Florida postman, Doug Hughes, who wanted to deliver a message about campaign finance reform to Congress. And in order to get their attention, he flew a gyrocopter under the west lawn of the U.S. Capitol building, and then he was arrested. Well, I've got some follow-up on that for you. He's been allowed to return home to Florida. by car. He was not allowed to fly his gyrocopter home. And friends, that's it for this Monday night edition of Nightcast. God willing and the creek don't rise, we'll be back again tomorrow night, Tuesday night, with the day's current news related to the Bible and prophecy here on Nightcast. Until next time, this is your host, Stephen Lloyd Gilbreth, saying so long and good night, friends.
You have been watching Nightcast with Stephen Lloyd Gilbreth. Nightcast can be seen Sunday through Thursday nights here on cogtv.org. Tonight's program is also available anytime on demand in the cogtv.org video archive.